Dragons Dogma, infamously known for its real-time combat, ability to climb monsters, as well as enemies having way too much health. Oh, and the fact that most of them will literally spawn out of thin air. So I wanted to know, could I somehow beat this beast of a game without any of the enemies seeing our Arisen? Let me go over the rules. 1. Being seen is purely subjective. However, that does not mean I could just make up excuses and move on. 2. What counts as being seen? If any enemy is close enough to the Arisen as well as targeting him or an ally within near proximity. Yes, I know it sounds vague, but after 4 hours, I barely made any progress in this massive game due to how strict I am being with it. 3. I will allow checkpoints. Once I can prove I can do an encounter without being seen, I am allowed to just fight them normally. If I have to reset back, you'll see why in due time. 4. I won't own any OP pawns, only pawns my level, as well as, for full transparency, I have a free cam mod that is used with Cheat Engine, but other than that, Cheat Engine is doing nothing else. Also, I won't use any glitches unless by complete accident. And with those out of the way, welcome to part 1 of seeing if I could beat Dragons Dogma without being seen. In another place, in another time, another child of man blazes your path. Now it's time for things to truly begin with our unseen journey with our sidekick pawn, Slade, who will be very useful for this opening segment. But first, a giant scary dragon immediately appears to watch over us. Fantastic. If you haven't played this game before, this dragon is far more important to the story than purely for visual spectacle, as it is the one speaking to us, beckoning us to come to him, but being rude, flies off. How are we supposed to come to him now? With the dragon gone, we can finally progress forward another 2 whole feet before being jumped by some lowly goblins. It seems I may have underestimated this challenge, but since they are so far back and focused on Slade, I will count this as not being seen, so I must retreat and let Slade do the heavy lifting. Now you may be thinking, oh, so this will be the whole playthrough, just you sending your pawns in while you hide behind some rocks. And to that I say, oh, the ignorant child you are. If only you did this challenge yourself. But fortunately for me, Slade was able to dispose of the goblins without any issues, and upon our arrival in the next area, we find a rift stone which is used in order to summon pawns, automatically summoning 2 additional pawns, that being Quincy and Morgana.
Looking cool, Joe.
Using the free cam, I was able to scout the path ahead. Lo and behold, more goblins just chilling next to a blazing fire. So what's the most sensible thing to do? Use the go command, of course. However, go does not work literally 90% of the time. Like I said, this won't be as easy as you might be thinking. These pawns are idiots. It just kinda happened randomly when they finally decided to go in and actually fight the goblins, and I have no idea why it took them so long. However, I was able to once again find some cover and use free cam to observe their battles from a safe distance. After their triumphant victory, I once again just double checked to make sure that they actually got them all before pursuing the beast. The next mini challenge is these goblins being rather rude to this poor soldier, so once again I send the pawns in to defeat them while I take a lounge behind this wall. I know, so interesting, but trust me, this is the easiest it gets by far. And unfortunately, this early on is where the challenge ends. Well, not ends, but fails, as once you get this cutscene, there is literally nothing that can be done about the snow harpy being 2 feet away from our Arisen, as well as anyone else being nearby, as well as the fact that the harpy didn't spawn in until after the cutscene, so nothing can be done unfortunately. But you want to know the part even better? After resetting, the game sent me back to the very beginning. Amazing, fun, lovely. Sure hope this doesn't make a return to screw me over later. This is where I came up with the checkpoints rule because, oh man, this reset feature sucks butt. Once again, I can confirm that nothing can be done here about this snow harpy. Literally nothing, so unfortunately, we must be seen by it to progress the story. Really does suck, but trust me, there is still much more that can be done with enough time and suffering. So if you do end up enjoying this, leave a comment saying you want more and maybe even subscribe. Fortunate for me, the pawns can actually be smart sometimes. Just like now, where they're actually going ahead of me in order to bring down the upcoming goblins without even being told to do so or even being nearby. It took them some time, but they did get the job done, so I hopped down and pawns. Why isn't the gate open? Yeah, so it turns out there was another snow harpy that just decided to not make itself known until a minute after I jumped down. Gee, thanks. And as of right now, there is 0 way for me, the Arisen, to deal with snow harpies. But this will change in due time. But for now, we must be seen by this one unless we get incredibly lucky with the pawn doing their job correctly. But before anyone takes this too seriously, this is just for fun, okay? Alright. Got that? Cool. But with this one defeated, the gate is lifted and lets us proceed to the chimera, whatever. How do you say that? Fight? And you're not gonna believe this, there's nothing that can be done, like at all. So like, but also it's like a mandatory boss, so maybe they shouldn't count? I don't know, let me know if you think bosses should count or not. Fun fact, if you've never played this game before, 1, you really should, but 2, you can physically climb on the monsters and focus attacks on certain points. For example, I can cut off the snake tail in order to stop the poison, and later in the fight, defeat specifically the goat head in order to stop any and all magic spells from being cast, leaving only the lion body left. With the Chimera Lion thing defeated, we are beckoned again by the dragon to the Eternal Ring, and where the game ends. So, can I beat the game without being seen? Oh wait, now we must make a character. Let me think. What character is commonly associated with stealth? One, Batman of course, John Cena. A really inaccurate John Cena. And it looks more inaccurate once in game itself. Like, look at this. How did I even think this looked remotely similar to him at the time? Look at him. Anyways, after being blinded by the sun, we get more confirmation how non-Cena he actually looks. I should feel ashamed for this. But soon enough, the dragon from the intro is here to terrorize us like the first guy we played as. Wait a minute, that first guy wasn't even our character. So do those 2 snow harpies count? Maybe they don't since it wasn't Bronze Cena like we have here. But there's no time to debate those sightings. With a sword in our hand, Resaw Cena is finally ready to bring the beast to its end, and he failed. But good news, the dragon didn't want us dead, it simply just wanted to have a tickle fight. A really strange and rather graphic tickle fight. Okay, maybe I lied, that's a lot of blood. He even stole my heart. Is he mayhaps a member of the Phantom Thieves? Okay, so you're telling me I'm just perfectly fine after having my second most vital organ viciously removed without any proper medical procedures on a beach. Screw it, sure, medieval people were just built different.
You finally awake.
It seems Respawn Cena must now embark on a quest of revenge to get his heart back, but first must pick a vocation. Fighter, Strider, or Mage. Now the most obvious one is Mage because magic. However, magic tends to be pretty close range in this game, so after reading the description of Strider, decided that this is the vocation I must use in order to maintain my distance and be as unseen as possible. After hearing some people gossip about my lack of heart, rude, as well as how I must be under some sort of ill magic, John Cena throws a temper tantrum and destroys and loots everything in the house, making sure nothing is left behind. Even this broom is not safe from the pillaging before finally departing on our stealthy journey to take down the dragon. Casardis, I think, probably butchered that, is our hometown that we will barely spend any time in the entirety of this game. So after a short jog throughout this lowly town, Cena gets jumped by the spawn of a pawn who will accompany us throughout our journey, Rook, who is a mage, so I'm kinda glad I did not pick that vocation. Now that we, after all of this time, finally leave the town, the challenge actually truly begins. Now, this is by far the easiest part of the entire challenge, the very beginning of the game. Who's surprised, honestly? However, it quickly goes downhill, but first, this random guy I could care less about is being attacked by goblins. Okay, I lied, I care enough to save him, and thankfully we can just snipe all of the goblins from a far distance while they focus on robbing him. It only took a couple of minutes, but as I said, all of them were sniped from a distance without a worry of the Arisen in their minds. And as from here, we have the easiest time making our way to the encampment, as I was able to avoid any and all other encounters, with some few very minor detours to maintain my safety, leading us to the encampment with no issues whatsoever. However, inside, we hear more strange voices. Voices from this rock. A talking rock. A rock telling me to go fight a Cyclops. Wait, what Cyclops? In this wait. So I tried to go a long way around, and there's an idiot telling me I can't leave. Great. And then when I do go to leave where the Cyclops is, it literally stares at me. Yes, I know it's a cutscene. But either way, there is no way to leave when the fight starts. Great. So unfortunately, there is literally nothing that can be done with this encounter. Nothing at all. But also it's a boss, so again it's debatable if it should count for them or not, as I didn't in my Breath of the Wild without being seen. Anyways, nothing can be done, so let us move on. The Rift Stone beckons us once again, so an otherworldly doppelganger, Cena John, appears out of nowhere, and before anyone complains, yes, I know I should have called him Pawn Cena due to being a pawn, but also like he looks nothing like him and I made him tiny for some reason, but I will still refer to him as Pawn Cena. So of course, after a long day of failure, I talked to a French person. Huge mistake, as being French causes the literal Hydra to be drawn to our camp, being a second boss in a row with nothing that can be done to not be seen. Hooray! But, being the skilled archer I am, sniped the head off with an arrow. Somehow. The French person apologizes for being French and says we could use the head to meet the king and bring the French plague to him, turning him French. So of course, I agree, as I don't like the French, but I also don't like the king either, so it must be done. What am I saying? Holy crap, did getting to the capital suck, and I mean suck. What I'm about to go over is 2 hours of trying to make my way to the main location of Dragons Dogma, what is usually like 20 minutes tops, but instead took the length of the hit 1993 movie Jurassic Park. This is the path taken to start the quest. Looks quite simple enough. No enemies, well-defined paths, just stay on the main road and I should be fine. Except that wasn't the case, as me, being me, forgot that LOD is a thing, so of course it looks like there were no enemies, as it wasn't close enough for them to spawn in. So I'm just trotting down the path and then I spot a bandit. Great, and this is where I learned how weird the damage works in this game. From a great distance, arrows do next to nothing to enemies except get them upset. This will be a great hindrance to the challenge. Even worse, upon resetting to our last checkpoint, no matter if you saved at any point later on, you will reset back to the very beginning of this journey, the encampment. You don't even understand how infuriating this reset to last checkpoint system is compared to something like the Arkham games. Second attempt, I was able to climb my way up and around without any of the bandits being aware that the Arisen just was outside their encampment, so I can confirm the encounter can be skipped and done unseen. But 2 feet later, yeah great, another bandit camp making the path completely inaccessible. So after resetting, I went to go a different path and lo and behold, another group of bandits on the way. So I tried to hug the wall like my life depended on it, and somehow the bandit above still saw me. Clearly this path will not do. Like I said, this game does damage weird, and I mean weird. You can clearly see that I am making my shots, but if the enemy itself is not aggroed towards me, the damage will be non-existent. And yes, I know most of my shots are missing, but still, this won't ever be viable, which is unfortunate because it makes this 10 times harder than it already is. So I start scouting a new possible path ahead, and there seems to be a second possible way to make it to our destination to turn the king French. However, to get there, I need to make my way around the third bandit group, which was actually way easier done than said. They don't even know you are there if you stick to the path. But soon enough, we meet an enemy even worse than bandits. Let me introduce you to the wolves. These animals suck, like a lot. Not only do they wander around, unlike the bandits, but they also have a rather large aggro range. And let me show you, as you can see, there are 4 of them. But by moving the camera, some of them completely respawn, as only 1 was lying before, now 2 are. And now a 3rd one was with the group. And yet these things aren't even the worst of it, but they're definitely up there. But due to our great height, our LeBron Cena can barely grab the ledge. But our pawns are stupid and immediately draw aggro from the wolves, and due to Pawn Cena being weak, ceases to live. Second attempt on this path, I decided to aid the pawns in their defeating of the wolves, but as you can see, once again, not once, but twice, the wolves looked directly up at me, which you know is being seen, which is rather unfortunate, but due to some events that transpire later, things will change for the better, trust me. This was the only wall when it came to starting the transportation quest, as after defeating them, there are no other enemies on our path to the French lady who probably would leave me a 1-star review, after both the really long delay as well as how long it'll take us just to make it to the capital. I have to be the worst escorter in the world of escorting. An escorter with social anxiety couldn't be a worse combination. Anyways, have you guys heard of having fun? Well, this game sure hasn't, as this simple escort mission just needed to have like 15 dedicated battle spots for enemies to halt your progression. I really wish I was exaggerating, and the singular moment is what made me double down on the checkpoint rules, as this escort is long. So once I can prove I can do one section unseen, I will be able to do it normally, because otherwise I would go mentally insane and this video would take a year if not more just to get out part 1. Okay, so there are immediately goblins after the bridge, and me being me, fell off the bridge to my demise without even intending to do so. I am very good at video games, subscribe for more amazing gameplay. Second attempt, I proved that once again that long distance damage is useless unless they are actively engaged in battle, but due to all of the knights alongside us in the escort, with some due time they will aggro to them and I can bow them down from atop this tower without ever being seen. However, the next encounter has harpies. Harpies are kind of the worst enemy in the existence of mankind, but not only that, but resetting to the last checkpoint sent me all the way back to the encampment. Since I had to reset, I tried the wolves again, and this time speedrunning it, and none of them even bothered to look for me. So I can confirm that I can skip these wolves without being seen. Are you happy now? You should be, and if you're not, I don't know, go take a walk and then come back, I don't know. Anyways, back to the harpies, where I once again proved the long distance isn't viable. Or is it? 10 minutes later, I made a breakthrough. Fire. Fire is the answer. You see, harpies are especially weak to it, and while experimenting from a distance, I can actually cause them to take damage from fire, slowly but surely until they fall to the wrath of the flames. And not just that, but if I maintain my distance, they will stay on the ground indefinitely. This is the breakthrough I needed. So returning to the beginning after the goblins, I get to being unseen. But just because I know how to deal with harpies now doesn't mean that they are easy. Far from it. I need my aim to be dead on and precise and keep them as far away as possible. I also learned that spamming the button help will force Rook to inflame my weapons even outside of combat, so this is how I'll keep my weapons ablaze for maximum efficiency. Unfortunately, once I hit one harpy, the others will be alerted and move from their perch, but with enough precision I can knock them down as well, and due to the distance, none of them will be able to get up until approached, so I can continue to inflict fire damage until they are burnt to a crisp. Even once knocked down, I can get closer to put them out of their misery faster by continuing to apply fire to them while they are struggling to get up, prolonging their time on the ground, as well as letting me eliminate them faster. So this is how every single harpy encounter is done. However, that does not mean this long walk is free with no problems. I must prove that I can still do them unseen first. Plus, it's not just harpies that are present, but you'll see later things get even more problematic. The fact that devs seriously went, yeah, let's put 3 groups of harpies in a row, just shows how much they don't want me to succeed in this challenge. But as I said, using the method talked about before, I can easily dispose of them with enough time without any of them seeing me under the rules that are set in place. By the way, all the uncut footage will eventually be uploaded for members only, including the failed attempts and experimenting that gets cut out of the full video. Unfortunately for me, the next group of enemies for me to do stealthily is the freaking wolves. But we have a whole squad of soldiers as well as some decent range and fire, so while hiding behind this rock, I can set them ablaze from a distance while everyone else distracts them, causing them to go down without any worries of yours truly. Or should I say John Cena, but who cares about him? But once again, harpies. Man, this game loves having flying creatures torment you, and these ones are behind the bend of the cavern, so dealing with them is much more intuitive compared to the rest that were out in the open. Of course, I got seen. Who's surprised? But we made some amazing progress this attempt, and with the checkpoint rules, I can just wait for the ox cart to make its way back to where I must re-attempt my unseenness. This harpy caused some problems. Oh yeah, I'm playing on controllers if you couldn't tell, so aiming isn't that easy, so the fact I gotta aim a precise shot is being made more difficult due to me being too stubborn to learn mouse and keyboard, because I am stupid. So out of frustration, brought a bomb to a wolf fight. Now you know it's super effective against one if you're ever in a tight situation regarding wolves and you have a bomb, which now that I say that is a really niche scenario. Anyways, John Cena's getting tired of being so drawn out. So of course, he locks in, kinda, sorta, maybe. I mean, he did eventually get the harpy down at a distance, letting him defeat them unseen. However, there's still another perched on a tree just around the corner. So of course, just like Lego Batman in the Lego movie, get it on my first try. And then, you'll never guess, more harpies on trees around another corner. Are you beginning to see why this took so long? But hey, as you know, I'm good at video games, so I was able to debatably get it on my first attempt, debatably. It looks closer than it was because of the zoom in while using the bow, so I personally think is good, but you know, it's ultimately up to you guys. Please be nice, please be nice. So do you guys remember wolves? Well, if you didn't, here you go. More wolves. Fantastic for this challenge. But clearly, if you look back, the wolves are targeting the guard and never face me directly, meaning I didn't have to restart. But, and this is a big but, if you remember earlier the first encounter with wolves, they are wacky. I was lucky enough to get this on my first attempt according to my standards, but you can see they're here. I move a few feet away, and they're gone, completely despawned and regain their health if not defeated. But with enough persistence, as I tend to do, I was able to triumph and come out on top against these wolves. Now, down below is another group of goblins ready to attempt to feast on our bones, but being the best video game player ever, fall down and nearly die. Nearly die because the cutscene saved me from fall damage. However, the goblins quickly turned around and spotted me, making me reset once again. And once again, I use height to my advantage to once again rain arrows down upon all of the not so innocent goblins to take them out without their eyes working upwards, spotting yours truly. And with them all defeated, only one task remains: open the gate. But, and I mean a massive but, upon the opening of the gate, an unavoidable cutscene plays. Not just any cutscene, but a cutscene of a horde of goblins ambushing us. On the bright side, we finally have a new checkpoint that isn't at the very beginning, that being right before the gate, which is truly wonderful, mostly. And now there are 3 groups of goblins staggered behind us trying to ambush us, which is truly surprising to find out. But both due to distance and power of fire, I could defeat all 3 waves. Now, did you know that there was a way to get around the gate without opening it? I can backtrack all the way to the path that leads to the other side of the gate, as per usual, defeat the goblins on the opposite side of the gate without them seeing me before even opening the gate. Finally, with the goblins on the other side defeated, I once again opened the gate. And, of course, the cutscene remains the same and nothing can be done about this group, so unfortunately, I cannot beat this game without being seen. But there's still much more available to be done without being seen, so I will continue as per usual. But due to thinking ahead, the goblins I did defeat were still defeated. Thank goodness the game isn't too broken, just a little broken, so more goblins I snipe. And with Gran, Soren in sight, we are so close to finally making it to the capital mostly unseen with the French in order to give the plague to the king. Unfortunately, we now have 2 issues. 1, bandits, and 2, it's almost nighttime. And nighttime in this game is dark, and I mean dark. But that got me thinking. Technically nobody can see me in the dark, so after stalling from a distance and firing at the bandits, once night hit, I decided to play it easy. I needed it after being here for nearly 2 hours anyways, so I don't use my lantern to remain cloaked in the darkness, don't mind the fire effects obviously. While yes, one of them did get rather close to me, in theory, unless they had night vision, they wouldn't be able to tell me apart from a regular guard in this current lighting. And also they fell to the sword a few moments later, so just a few more feet to go, just a few more, and after all of that suffering in this journey, we finally made our way to the capital being seen as little as possible. Unfortunately not without being seen, but there's only so much we can do in this game. Again, this has to be a series unlike my usual videos, just due to how complicated and difficult this game is to do a challenge in. So if you enjoyed, tell me in the comments you want part 2 and I will make it. And with that, thank you so much for watching, have a good day and a good night.